So, welcome everyone. This evening we are discussing AI and cybersecurity. This is a very important topic. You have been hearing about AI all over the news, but how many of you are actually paying attention to what's happening in cybersecurity? Today we have got with us four experts, Dr. Mike Saylor, we have got Nagar. How do I pronounce your last name?
Arjadnia.
Thank you. We have Bulat Kamdiev, and we have got Dr. Sanya Cancar-Todorovic that recently published a book on this topic of AI and cybersecurity. This is excellent. Welcome everyone. So just a couple of words about us. We are AI future leaders. We are a leading AI education, training, and curriculum solutions company. We focus on teaching the teachers, providing that education, training. Many of you have been joining our webinars. Thank you so much. And do check us out. I have provided a link to join our newsletter. To find more about us, you can also go to our website listed here. So thank you so much. We have an upcoming workshop, AI for Teachers. It's going to be very interesting on October 16. So do join us, register for that one if you're in the education space. So it's for professors as well as teachers K-12. So our speakers, let's start with Dr. Saylor. 30 years of experience, IT cyber veteran, 24 years, wow, professor of cyber and digital forensics and incident response. I also know that you published some books on this topic. I have seen several publications. Maybe you can tell us a bit.
Sure. So one book I've published 4 editions of. It's called Cybercrime and Cyberterrorism, primarily focused on law enforcement readers to help them get acclimated to cyber and digital forensics and doing their job better at investigating and catching bad guys. And then the most recent book on how to prepare and respond to ransomware. Both how do I prevent it from happening, but the likelihood of it happening, and how do I effectively recover from that?
Yeah, that is a very important topic, and I see that you are executive director for the U.S. Cyber Defense Center. So thank you for coming. We are very excited to have you. We also have got Nagar. I still cannot pronounce your name, but you're Canada's top woman in cybersecurity. I know you have received an award from Women in AI. I've seen you on stage. It was excellent to attend that conference. And you're with M&P Digital.
Yes. So I work with M&P Digital. We are one of the Canadian firms that provide all consulting services similar to Big Four, and I kind of lead a cross-functional team, not just in cyber but also in cloud and infrastructure. I love solving puzzles, so I really love helping customers turn really complex security challenges into practical people-based strategies. And then I started my job from a small techie and worked my way up. So I've seen firsthand how much innovation, resilience, and good sense of humor also keep things secure. And then I love bridging the gap between technology and people. I'm very people focused in my job, and I truly believe cybersecurity works best when it's understood but not feared. I feel like a lot of our peers come across as they want everyone to fear cyber, but I think it's it's the best when it's really understood.
Thank you for that introduction. And we also have got Bulat joining us, a senior information security advisor at Home Trust Company that recently merged and with Fairstone Bank of Canada. Bulat?
Yep, I'm part of information security team at my company and AI. was always one of my general area of interests, which became very funny and very interesting when the LLMs took off. And now it's a kind of a buzzword that everyone is interested in, but I've been there before. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. And we have got Dr. Sanya. You have got a book now available on Amazon, AI-driven cybersecurity system. Thank you for joining us. You are with Microsoft, Principal Global Sourcing Category Manager at Microsoft, over 25 years of experience, a nominee, Women Changing the World Regional Awards, Women in Tech Awards. Maybe you can tell us a bit about yourself and the book that you've got.
Thanks, Alina, for that great introduction. Yes, the last book was actually based on my dissertation research that I have done, and it was regarding strategic implementation of AI-driven cybersecurity systems. And I did focus on the financial institutions only because I have experience in that area and because FIs are continuously being attacked. And that being a highly regulated environment, I kind of thought if I can crack the code on how to do it right in that area, it would be great. It would be comprehensive, but it would be applicable to every other industry as well. And I'm happy to be here and excited about the conversations we're going to have.
Thank you. So our first question for this evening, how AI is transforming the cyber threat landscape. We have got AI now so easily accessible, and bad actors now can use AI to attack companies, to attack individuals, steal information. Lots of scams happening out there, and companies now have to react. So how have you seen AI change the nature of cyber threats in recent years? If one of you wants to kick us going.
I can start just to break the ice. It's a double-edged sword, like you said it, right? It has revolutionized cybersecurity with a fast threat detection, predictive analytics, and automated responses. But also, let's not kid ourselves. The bad guys are always going to try to be one step ahead. And I think because of that, the traditional mindset of relegating cybersecurity to one team, and usually InfoSec or IT team, I think it truly is a disservice that any organization might be still functioning under that mindset. In my opinion, cybersecurity needs to be embedded into the DNA of the organization and be a responsibility of the entire organization, regardless of the department, regardless of a position, because it is impossible. I don't think it's actually reasonable to think that anyone can be truly a subject matter expert to something that's evolving so fast. And whatever we know today might be irrelevant by lunchtime tomorrow. So having it be embedded in the DNA of the organization is truly the only way that you can make sense of it all. And I like what Nagar said, people have to understand it. And technology, without the people who actually understand it, make sense of the data and actually action it, is just a shiny new object that everyone is chasing. So I'm just putting it out there. Without people, it's really irrelevant. I don't know if Nagar, if you wanted to chime in on that one, because
I always come up with examples to put it, because the threats are obviously different, and people always have this sense of what a cyber attack is like. But it's changed so much, like deepfake and the AI assisted phishing, the vishing, the automated malwares, name it, misuse of LLMs and NLMs, all of that, they're all new to people, right? And if you think about it, I just give you a couple of examples to kind of put it in perspective, because everyone probably has heard from the soap opera impersonation fraud with Arup. I don't know if everyone heard about that it was someone had transferred $25 million on a Zoom call. We could all be fake at this point on this call as well. But that is next level, deep fake that they could really pull off. Or I don't know if you've heard of a story in LA There was a woman that lost her life saving. The scammers used AI generated deepfake videos and messaging. They impersonated an actor from the General Hospital, I think he was. And then she totally was in a relationship. She sent him $430,000. She sold her condo to send this gentleman the money. And at the end, she was deeply convinced she was in a relationship with this person. And they only approached her on Facebook. They sent her Facebook Messenger she totally, and then switched over to WhatsApp when they really needed the money because Facebook wasn't good enough. And that's as simple as it can get, right? So to your point, AI is only as good as its training and input data and everything else that goes around it. So we really have to kind of be aware of all the things that are happening around us, and then be ready to kind of react to it as it comes. Mike Bulat.
Yep, from the operation standpoint, it's actually fascinating to see how AI can be used and is being used on all three stages of the attack. It is used both as a tool for an attack. We all remember the script kiddies when the massive attacks became available because people got access to easily configurable scripts where even a person without deep technical knowledge could launch the attack. And now AI scales that to a massive proportions, because everyone who can get access to a model with the security guardrails removed can generate targeted malware, targeted exploits for mass use. And there is really very hard to put a limit to that. You all probably already felt the effect on the scale of phishing attacks, where for years we've been telling users that you should proofread the email, and if it contains grammar mistakes, it's probably not legit. Well, not anymore. We all have perfect grammar now because they don't even need to spend resources to write those emails. And the spear phishing, where instead of spending hours to research a certain person to send them a targeted phishing email, now all is done by LLM. You just feed them the list of people you want to target. They do the research. They write very nice, very targeted emails that include a lot of personal knowledge that make people believe that it's real. And at the same time, the same AI tools can be used as an infiltration method. Like all the old tricks with SQL injection and everything, they still work with AI. Especially work well because it's a black box where you don't have exact control over what's going to happen, where you can use clever prompt injection techniques by hiding the malicious prompt, by using different languages, emojis, symbols, like programming languages in the prompt, or special symbols or characters. And that produces the result that you did not expect when you launched an AI tool with external interface in your company, for example. So yeah, definitely creates a lot of new interesting challenges and a lot of new interesting possibilities.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that, and a couple of things. One, with the use of AI for phishing, absolutely the grammar and the formatting is better, but AI still doesn't recognize the behavior of certain individuals. So what we've seen most recently in AI-driven phishing attacks, it's worded really well, but it says things that user would never say. So when you review those instances with the actual users, even the victim said, "I got the email from Bob, and it was well written, but that's not something Bob would have ever said." So we continue as users we continue to have to go to the next level of diligence. So it was first, did that email originate from someone you trust? Yes. Was it well written? Yes. Well, now we have to, well, is it something that person would actually say, or would that scenario actually be legitimate? We've got to start or continue to apply more rationale and diligence to our interactions with technology. And then I'll go back to something Sonia said, and something that I preach all day long. Cyber is not a technology problem; it's a company problem. The risk is prevalent on in everything that we do as a company. We rely on technology, but it's not just technology; it's information. And so a company that doesn't even rely on technology, but their information's on the internet, that's still a cyber threat. And so one of the ways that bad guys are using AI now is to make their reconnaissance more efficient. And so whatever information is out there, they're using AI to collect all of that in order to design their campaign, design their attack, understand the feasibility and value of that attack. And then, much like Bulat said, using AI to conduct those attacks in a lot of different ways, whether that's automated, do this, assess the result, and do X, Y, Z, depending on what those results are, or something more targeted like phishing. So now we've got another reason to go back to the business and say, hey, we need to clean up our internet footprint, our digital exhaust, whatever you want to call it, so that we can reduce the information that AI can collect about us and use against us.
Can I just add another layer of complexity to everything that just being said? And I think it's important because the third-party risk and I love what you just said, Mike, and what Bulat mentioned as well. I think it's all the stuff that we can control within our own organization. But then look at a third-party risk management. You're actually inviting your suppliers, your partners into the infrastructure of your organization. And without a robust third-party risk management in place, you don't know what the cybersecurity posture of your suppliers is, but you're inviting them over to your house. And another layer of that is cybersecurity posture of their suppliers and their suppliers. Like all of that has a potential to penetrate into the organization, even though you're doing all these great things to operationalize it internally and you feel like your house is protected. Is it really? So anyways, just throwing it out there because again, I go back to what I said, no one is really an expert because it changes so fast. So as soon as you learn something, new information comes up and you kind of have to keep learning it and keep evolving as the technology evolves as well.
And may I add one more thing? You just reminded me when talking about the third-party risk and the supplier chain risk. The supplier chain risk with LLMs is a very, very tricky subject because malicious actors can actually do clever backdoors in the LLM if they do get an option to train the LLM and then sell it to you. So proof checking what you are buying and from whom, is it a reputable company, becomes very interesting because with code backdoors, at least the scanners can pick them up. With the LLM backdoors, no, they can't. Unless you know what specific behavior has been trained into the LLM to trigger the backdoor, you will never find it. So the only option for you is to be careful with whom you buy that LLM from, if you want to do self-hosted models like that.
100%.
So what are some best practices? I know that AI is now used to generate attacks, but now we can use AI to prevent attacks. Lots of companies are now purchasing tools, AI actually tools, to make sure that basically AI tools for preventing these. So what could be some best practices for integrating AI into those enterprise security stacks? And what are those key considerations for your security infrastructure? Maybe some of you can share a few best practices here.
Maybe I'll just, because I'm not going to go into a technical, I'll let others speak to technical, but I want to start off by saying that I don't know that it's just about technology, right? Like when it comes to integrating of anything new, like you got to look at it holistically from all four pillars, and that's people, process, technology, and information that's being shared. Because I think there's probably not enough of that outside of the IT departments. For the reasons that I mentioned earlier, because the mindset of kind of relegating it all to one department is kind of still prevalent in a lot of organizations. So, but just from the technical perspective, in my opinion, because based on the research that I have done, it was the evolutionary integration that is the best approach, at least for the FIs. And the reason for that is because it allows you to kind of open up the doors to all the stakeholder within the organization to provide feedback, but also to tap into any legacy systems, to tap into any platform fragmentations that all the organizations still have them. And even though there might be underutilized tools, and that's why they're fragmented, and maybe just one person in the whole organization uses it, it creates a vulnerability that would be otherwise missed if it wasn't done as a holistic approach.
And if I could formalize that into a governance approach or a governance model. So I think any operational implementation of AI in a company needs to start with a governance model, like the use case of why we're using it, what we're using it. To Balat's comments about understanding what it is, the tool, the integrity of the tool, the privacy of your data. And then from that, how are we using this tool to satisfy this use case? What data are we putting in it? What expectations and outputs do we expect from it? Who has access to it? How do we limit it? How do we secure it? And then absolutely, run it through some test scenarios to validate all of that stuff. But now you've got not only the policy and the expectations defined, along with the vendor management from where it came from or who built it, but then also hopefully the monitoring of its use, and any kind of reporting or compliance that goes along with it.
And like a couple of things that I've seen with clients as I work with them. One of the things that I noticed is like alert fatigue and false positive and negatives with the AI tools that AI often generates like many alerts. And then you kind of need triaging, threat prioritization, feedback loop, all of those stuff. So what I found is like if AI causes too many false alarm, it wears out the analyst on the client side. And then if it misses too many threats, confidence drops, either extreme harm or like to the security posture. So it's very important to kind of like do the thing, like establish threshold, establish confidence levels. That's one of the things I've seen them with a lot of clients. And then involve the very experienced human analysts to review and correct mistakes. So people just don't dismiss it, because I found them when the alert fatigue starts, everyone just starts to dismiss all the alerts altogether. The other couple of things that I've seen, I talked about data earlier, and I said AI is only as good as your training and input data. It is, you really have to make sure your data is clean, labeled. Elena, you probably know this a lot better than we do, for the training and validating AI models. Like you have to really integrate your logs and telemetry from all the relative domains that they come with that data. You got network, you got endpoint, you got identity. I got to bring all of that together for it to all make sense. So those are the couple of things that I've seen, customers kind of like with integrating their tools and everything that they have in their, in their hands. Like they have to really bring it all together to make sense and make sure they get all data required to really secure it. So that's a couple of things. Balat?
Yep. So wanted to add two best practices that I've seen in a lot of companies and discussed between my peers. So two questions that security teams often need to ask themselves when they are implementing the AI-based tools are, is the tool doing what I want it to do? And is the tool doing everything that I want it to do? Actually, a lot of controls that are being implemented around AI tools are very similar to the controls that internal audit teams are implementing around human-based tools. So if the AI tool is being used to summarize and baseline behavior and generate alerts based on that, then a very good practice is to have human checks, like the random sampling, to see if the tool actually does the processing you want. From both sides, you need to look at the actions tool takes and check randomly some of them to see if they are what you expect it to do. And you need to look at some behaviors that you would have expected to be actioned upon and see if the tool actually did that. And the other very important and very useful technique that's being used a lot in the industry is making sure that you don't get overhyped on AI, because there are a lot of security startups that are offering AI-based tools that don't do a lot of static analysis and rely on AI a little bit too much, which is a little bit of a poor approach, because while AI is great at doing baselining and summarization, the static signatures of the known malicious behavior and known malicious patterns are also a very good addition to the tool. Like it shouldn't be AI only, and it at this moment in time it shouldn't be static only. Like it must have both.
That makes sense. So it's a mix of AI, new systems, plus old school systems, because no one canceled what was happening prior. And this reminds me a bit of, in data science, we actually do, for example, fraud detection. And when we identify suspicious transactions, it's very similar to what you just identified when you are identifying suspicious behavior. So you need to have that balance between art and the science, because you need to establish that threshold. You do not want to catch too much, or also, you just need to have that balance. And that reminds me of that very similarly. And I actually have follow-up questions now. If you could share potentially with us some real-world cases of AI-driven cyber attacks. I don't know if you have experienced them in your work. It's actually maybe a good thing that you're not experiencing them. It means you're excellent at preventing them. So what are some of those cases where you have experienced some of those attacks and maybe some of those lessons learned in your practice?
Sure, I'll go first. So phishing obviously is probably the more, I say obviously, it is probably the more prevalent, identifiable AI-driven attack these days. Probably a dozen or so in the last month, cases of that looks like a good email, but again, Bob would never have said it that way. So that's what raised suspicion and the analysis of that conversation. The other ones that we've seen, being a managed security service provider, we have numerous clients, and seeing the same type of interaction and traffic across multiple clients within the same industry. Researching that and doing some threat analysis on a lot of the origination of that activity and it being automated to some degree, and then looking into the traffic. Some of those responses were dependent on the information it collected. So we've seen some automated reconnaissance, like I mentioned earlier, in particular industries. And so that's something that we can automate a response to because we have access to a data set across an industry. Once we see that, again, using AI to help us. But in our opinion, even on the cybersecurity operations side, AI is simply a facilitator. It's not a solution. So it's just helping us do our job more efficiently by collecting and presenting us the data that we want to assess and take action on.
That does make sense.
I kind of mentioned two examples earlier, but I'm going to go back to them because that's something that I've been seeing with a lot of smaller customers. Still, like deepfake and synthetic media detections, those are the things they can use because they still get to a lot of deepfake phishing simulation and video and image authenticity issues. We see a lot of that because there's less awareness and then there's less controls. So we definitely suggest to our customers that, strengthen your verification controls. So just because a CEO called you and said transfer like $100,000, you shouldn't be doing that. Put some out of band channels, phone, text, in person, kind of like real, human being. Use authentication tokens or passphrases that otherwise the hackers wouldn't know, and then apply dual approval in high value transactions, like not just one person. I need multiple people, and I'm going to go through my verification channels. For the deep fakes, like we say, you can put actual AI tools to analyze the voice and video and image authenticity. And for some who don't, like some of the customers that are smaller and they just don't have the money to put all of that in place, we say simple things like, hey, because a lot of these folks, the technology hasn't grown as much. So if you actually ask them to get up and turn around, the back of the head is not the same as the front. So we're just kind of saying, this is a simple test. Ask them to get up and turn around and see if it's the same person. A lot of time, you might not be the same person. So that we just like offer them simple, and then like train and prepare your teams. As Sanya said before, you know, you do a lot of phishing simulation, do deep fake phishing simulation, to just extend that to bigger, like, you know, create your incident response playbooks specifically for AI related attacks and fraud. So that really helps you get prepared for this.
I have one more, just real quick. Sorry, Balat. The turn around and show me the back of your head reminded me of this. So I'm also a college professor, and one of the things that we saw this semester was a lot of fake students enrolling in classes. And so what's happening is AI-driven enrollment for online courses. And so we were able to detect it this semester from an incident that happened last spring, where in the school that I teach at, three fake students signed up, received financial aid for classes that weren't a real person and they never attended. So we talked about how to identify that, and now any online class requires a video with a student to prove they're a real student and that it matches their government issued ID.
That's interesting. I am also a professor. I have never heard of students that are AI generated students signing up to a program. That's a new one. I have seen a lot of AI being used for homework, for assessments. I definitely had to change the way that assessments are being done and transfer things for more in-person, because I have had students submit pretty much AI-generated works of art, I would say. Right. They're perfectly written. And for cybersecurity, can you imagine? You can generate amazing content. You can generate deep fakes. I could be a fake Alina right now. That is possible. That brings me to my question about what is the future of AI cybersecurity? And how can we complement AI and that human intelligence and fight against cyber threats? Because this is just amazing to see. There are lots of in the news situations where AI was used in very creative ways to scam money, to scam millions of dollars from organizations, to come up with very creative attacks. And these days, it seems like we don't have that historical pattern, right? Many of these we detect because there is a pattern of behavior. We find something similar, and if the pattern matches, we flag it. But if there is no pattern, we need to get creative about it. So what do you think about AI and human intelligence, the biological intelligence, and how do we prevent this cybercrime?
I can say that, again, going back to the first point I made, AI is just a shiny new tool without human intervention, because the ethical judgment, contextual understanding, creative problem solving are all of the things that AI cannot replicate yet. Right? So I think, I guess what I'm trying to say is that AI provides the scale and precision, but it's human judgment, accountability, leadership that transforms that data into meaningful and responsible action. I don't know, Mike, if you and Nagar, if you guys wanted to add to that.
I think so. The way that this is kind of going, I think in the next 5 years, you won't hire a pen tester, you hire a pen testing AI tool, I think, and that never sleeps, drinks too much coffee, and tattles on your misconfiguration 24/7. So it's going to kill you with everything that's going to come out. You know, it probably, like, if you start doing that, the cyber might start feeling like a sci-fi movie, except like we're the good guys and the robots are mostly on our side because there are pen testers. But I think the biggest the shift we're going to see that is AI that thinks like a hacker, right? And this model would be acting like autonomous red teams, constantly poking our systems. I'm hoping that's what we're seeing, finding our weak spots, and before a real attacker does. Like that's what I expect to happen, and that's what I hope to happen. It's like having, you know, like a really good pen tester at all time. And then how do we stay ahead? I think just be curious and not cautious at all time. Like, you know, experiment with these tools before the hackers do. Like, we got to stay ahead of them. Build your AI muscle and not just AI tools. Like, you have to really understand it before you use it. I was at the CISO roundtable, and then one of the CISOs said, like, I don't really care about the tools. I care about the people who use the tools, because if I have all the tools but no one knows how to use them, they'll be good for nothing. So a brilliant model is useless without good people to use it. And then as you know, Mike said, like, govern it all early and properly. Like, automation without oversight is just chaos.
Sorry, maybe just to add to that, because you just reminded me of something. I think it's that whole risk appetite. It cannot be stagnant. And I think a lot of organizations just fall into the trap where their risk appetite has been predetermined 10 years ago and it's no longer relevant. And because of that, they're afraid to play. They're afraid to be curious and experiment with all these new tools and technologies. And that's usually how they fall behind. So I think maybe another thing to maybe add to the list is that whole risk appetite, and make that evolving at the same pace as the technology is evolving as well. Otherwise, it becomes useless as well.
Completely agree. And AI is just another shiny tool, like you mentioned. And so was the hammer when it first was invented. And hammers are used for a lot of things today, breaking windows, hurting people, as well as what it was intended for. And what I think is interesting, and you mentioned it, the risk appetite, but the risk appetite has to be derived from data, right? So this reminds me of the smart city fad, where we want to connect everything so everything communicates well. And in order for your penetration test to truly be AI driven and give you the value you want, the results of that penetration test, those risks have to be correlated to actual values within your organization, so that you know that high risk isn't just high because it's likely vulnerable that can be exploited, but it's also with a system that has data that you've determined is high. It's not just a print server on a shop floor that does shipping labels. So I think in order for things to truly be automated with AI, they all have to be interconnected with values that we've spent time determining, which isn't going to happen. I have not seen that in 30 years, that a company put everything they know on paper or in a system. And we've tried that from the audit side, with audit to GRC tools, so that when we audit you and we put results in, we know what the true value is. That's a nightmare. And even auditors don't like to do that. So I think in order for AI to get there, we've got to organization, the one out of many, would have to agree to put all that data in a system so that they can correlate and give you actionable, valuable results. In the absence of that, you still have to have people to assess those results in a conversation with the stakeholders to determine what to do and how to prioritize and whether or not it's even valid. And so I think we're at we're in the exciting part, where AI is shiny and glittery, and we're trying to think of all these different ways we can use it. And in order to do that, we've got to connect more things. Well, then on the risk and cyber side, we're like, okay, maybe that one more thing, or maybe that just a little bit more data. But at some point, we're going to go, that's too much, and it's too much of a. We've got to start pulling back, much like we did with the whole interconnected smart city fad we went through.
Actually, I want to ask the audience to submit some questions into the chat for our speakers. And if anyone here wants to add as to how can we leverage AI to fight AI cybercrime, that's a very interesting topic, to be honest. So if anyone has got questions, do put them in, and we're going to continue the discussion, because my next question is, where is that area where the human is still irreplaceable, and you need that human cybersecurity expert, because there has been research saying that, well, cybersecurity, it's all about rules, it's all about patterns. Maybe we can automate, and maybe we can replace Bulat here with AI agents that scans regularly, applies rules, and locks things down and never sleeps, you know, an AI multi-agent system. And there are these tools coming up. So are humans still irreplaceable when it comes to cybersecurity? And do put
May
in
I
your
start,
questions.
since you wanted to replace me? So my view on this, and obviously, as anyone here, I may be wrong because technology is still on its rise and no one knows for sure where it will go. But I expect it to follow a similar cycle to the previous big leaps, where it's a great tool that scales tremendously for the things we do, but it doesn't really replace people. It enables people to do much more with less, like the clouds, like the automation. Like introduction of the cloud meant that human engineers no longer have to physically deploy each and every server and configure operating system on it, because you have the automated deployment. That saved effort tremendously. Instead of having free system administrators for 20 servers, you can now have free system administrators managing environment of 800, like 1,000 servers. Same with security. It's not like those AI tools are going to replace security agents, but instead of having a team of 10 security analysts handling 100 internal applications, they can now handle 500 internal applications and also do some analysis of user behavior and help educate the users on some additional stuff. So it's an effectiveness tool, not a replacement tool, at least from my point of view.
We do have some interesting questions coming in. So AI are part of daily work, but over trusting their output creates new security risks. So how can small and growing businesses build a culture that's healthy, and how do you manage that?
We went through the same thing when Google became popular. You know, you search something and you get results and you think they're accurate, and bad guys actually took advantage of that with what's called search engine poisoning. And then we had to train users on how to use Google. Similarly, AI is just another tool, and we've got to train them how to use it, what to expect, how to apply additional rationale and diligence. Don't just use one tool. In my experience, I've rarely used one tool to give me the results I might rely on. Whether it's an audit tool, a forensics tool, a vulnerability assessment tool, you should always consider using multiple tools, and then consolidate or assess the results from both. And just to continue something Bulat was saying, real quick, I did a presentation with an AI expert from Google, and he gave the example of spreadsheets and how that impacted the accounting and bookkeeping industry, going from pencil and paper to an automated a software-driven spreadsheet. It didn't get rid of the profession of bookkeepers. It exploded into a variety of other professions and disciplines that could then utilize that same tool in different ways. I think AI is similar, especially in cyber.
And I just wanted to add that to, even going back to the previous point, we talked about like AI versus human, and it can, like, AI is amazing. It can do things in scale. It can do millions of transactions in seconds, all of that great things we can do, sure. But like human bring context. So like AI sees login attempts from 3 different countries in like 12 hours. It's going to freak out and say, hey, there's like panic. But human looks and says, no, that's our global VP of sales traveling from these 3 countries at once. So I know what's going on. Don't worry about it. That's the context that human brings. Human also brings empathy and ethics. Imagine if you work in a hospital and AI wants to shut down the hospital network because I want to, it's contaminated and I'm going to like start shutting everything down. But human knows that you can't cut power off to the life support. So humans going to stop AI and say, okay, look, you can do everything. Like you can stop the ransomware, but if it's on this machine and it's still giving life support to somebody, you can't cut it off. Like that's something that AI can never do. So there's certain things, and like AI can tell you 99% chance that there's something malicious, but only a human analyst looks at that and says, wait a second, our finance team is testing these new macros that we just so and so gave them. So there's like all of that comes with that human part of it that AI can't still quite distill that nicely as humans can, right? So just the kind of bringing your people to these AI tools and the AI front is super important to everybody.
There's actually an interesting, we have multiple questions and we are coming to our end of this excellent roundtable. Let's pick up a question about financial industry that just came through. If you're in the financial industry, if you're in a bank, and we are all at an arms race, but banks are at a disadvantage because banks have got more regulations. Banks are not allowed to explore all the maybe latest and greatest in AI tools because you might be introducing more risks with those. So maybe someone who has experience can chime in.
Maybe I can just start us off because that's exactly what my dissertation was about. It was the U.S. financial institutions, and Juan, you're right. It is highly regulated environment where the risk appetite is not up for negotiations, and for obvious reasons. And I don't know that it's a disadvantage, but it does pose a challenge. And the only way to address it and address it thoroughly is through having those 4 pillars that I talked about: process, people, information, and technology. You got to tackle all 4, you got to do it at the same time. And banks, let's face it, even it doesn't matter what size of the bank, like banks jointly have ability to influence policymakers, because all the everything that's going on right now with the attacks or with the cybersecurity challenges that banks might be facing, if those challenges were brought up to the regulators, you have ability to influence that conversation and the regulations. I think over the time, those regulations, they're already softening up to allow banks to I don't want to call it experiment, but to try new things within the guardrails of secure guardrails, obviously, because you don't want to expose it too much. So it's definitely a challenge. I wouldn't call it a disadvantage, but it is a challenge, but it's not the one that can be tackled. At the end of the day, sorry, and just to add to what Negar was just saying, at the end of the day, I think the AI has been framed as this boogeyman that it's going to take all the jobs away and humans are just going to be, jobless. At the end of the day, it's not. AI will take away transactional stuff, the boring stuff that no one wants to do, stuff that is prone to human error because it's transactional and that you don't have to think about it much. But by taking that away, it opens up the bandwidth to humans to focus on stuff that requires human intellect, that requires that empathy, that requires ethical judgment, that requires all those things that AI cannot replicate. So I don't know, Juan, if I don't know, I answered it super, super fast, but that's because I'm looking at the time and I don't want Alina to cut me off. So I'll stop talking.
So
I'll add real quick. Operational implementation of AI in the financial sector absolutely frowned upon at the moment. But there are alternatives by looking at tools and solutions that have AI embedded in them. So for example, a SIM platform or an XDR platform that does all of your log and event collection, network traffic analysis that has AI built into it, that is acceptable.
And a short addition, I just wanted to say that I can't really say that banks are at a disadvantage because it's not an arm race between the bank and an attacker in terms of who uses AI best. It's more of banks needing to adapt to attackers using AI for attacks, and banks needing to know what they can do with AI to improve their services, which, yes, they are kind of stifled by the regulation. But that applies not just to AI, that applies to everything, because banks are a very traditional industry where a lot of the innovation has to follow very strict security guidelines. But it doesn't stop them from using AI to address security threats, really. It just means that they need to be careful in using AI to improve their services, which is a slightly different component.
So as we wrap up this roundtable, if you could just give us a couple words, what would you tell our audience on AI and cybersecurity?
Don't believe anything it says. No, I was kidding. Be diligent. I think we as a civilization have become too reliant on technology and what it tells us to drive our decisions. And we've gotten away from doing our own homework and our own research and our own validation. So take whatever that thing is that technology gives you, take it at least one step further. Do some validation, do some diligence, and don't just simply rely on the response.
Trust but verify.
Makes sense.
I was trying to figure out a different way of saying it. It's always been said.
Well, I'd say future isn't AI versus humans, as you said, Sanya. It's AI with humans. So AI handles the speed and the scale, and human handles the strategy and sanity. And then let's face it, like AI can catch a million phishing emails, but only a human knows when it's time to order pizza for the incident response team.
Nice.
And we have an interesting few years ahead of us, that's for sure. And my closing words would be inspired by the question that we started with. I would say that critical thinking is not becoming the most important cybersecurity skill. Critical thinking has always been the most important skill that we humans have. So we
Agreed.
definitely take time to develop it.
So stay safe. Keep your brains about you. Keep your human side when it comes to AI and cybersecurity. And I do thank everyone for joining us this evening and our speakers for a great discussion around AI and cybersecurity. So thank you everyone for joining, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, folks. Cheers.
Good evening.